Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Aquarian Mind podcast. Today's podcast, episode number 246. I'm your host, Jamel Crothers. It's Book Insight Friday, and you guys know I do a book, and then a couple of weeks go by, and I don't talk about books, but I do talk about other things. So that's what's happening today. So today I'm discussing my next 5 favorite characters that I've written. I've published so many books, but these are my next 5 because last year I wrote, my blog and also my podcast, which was months ago, about my 5 favorite characters that I've written so far. So this is part 2 to this, as I'm sharing my next 5 favorite characters that I've written on my writing journey. And a lot of my books have been published since the first podcast episode that I've done. So it's time to share some new characters. So let's get going here. The first character is Brenda from A Woman's Worth Part 1. Now, writing this book was very fulfilling for me. Mainly because I learned a lot about postpartum depression, and I did plenty of reading, researching, and watching content regarding it. There were a few episodes of the hit Fox TV show 911 where postpartum depression was addressed, and it had an effect on writing this book. And one of the main characters, Maddie on 911, played by the amazing actress Jennifer Love Hewitt. She, addresses postpartum depression and, a lot of the mental health aspects of, how it affects women. It also affects men too, but it affects women way more. And I never knew of postpartum depression, and to spend time learning about it, what happens, how it impacts women, men, and families, that was something that I really enjoyed doing. And I didn't expound on it in a huge light, but I wanted to write a story to where it's the process of Brenda going through her pregnancy, the emotional aspects, preparing, to have her first child, and then the after part of having her first child, and all of the things that, she deals with and manages. And there aren't many stories written the way I wrote it regarding postpartum depression. So I can say that I'm proud that I've written an important story that will bring more discussion in the world. Now, there's deeper things with postpartum depression than what I wrote. I just wanted to write a story where it opens our eyes to it, so we can start these conversations and start to understand how it's happening, why it's happening, things of that nature. Something that I may explore down the road with another book. Who knows? Anything's possible. A lot of times when I say things like this, normally a book ends up happening years down the road. So I never say never. Second character, Lisa from A Woman's Worth Part 2. Maternity leave is one of the most important things a woman should have when she has a child. And as you guys know, the United States is one of the worst countries in regards to this, and I felt that a story about maternity leave was needed. And Lisa was a huge component to the Woman's Worth series, and we don't talk about how much women are under pressure to get through pregnancy, have a beautiful child, and only get a limited amount of time to spend with their child before they have to go back to work. And Lisa was one of my favorite characters to write because I got to embrace the journey of writing about, women's social issues. And, maternity leave, give or take, is a couple of weeks. Before you know it, a woman is right back to work, and her child is being tended to by someone else, right? So there's the loss of nurturing and spending quality time, with her child, whether it's the first child, the second, the third, whatever it is. a woman needs to have that time, right? And in this world, the way inflation is and the cost of living, two parents working in the household is now the norm, I guess, right? I can delve into so many reasons why it happened and things of that nature, but I'd rather write it down the road and really open people's eyes to it. But in other countries, women get a lot of times like a year off, and when they come back to work, they still have the same position and they're well taken care of and things of that nature. So that's a beautiful thing. But this is the United States of corporations. I always say that because this is a capitalistic country, and as long as you're sitting in a cubicle and making a company money, they're perfectly fine with that. And as long as your child is in the indoctrinated public education system, they're fine with that too. Yeah, I said I wasn't going to do it, but I did do it. But anyway, Lisa was a character that I loved writing about. Third character, Nancy, from A Woman's Worth Part 6. Now, the pressure for women to get married and have children has always been a discussion for decades. Time has changed and, times have changed, and women are going after their goals in life, traveling, living a life of fulfillment without having children and getting married. And Nancy was a character that I see so many women can relate to. It's why I wrote this story that focuses on women doing what makes them happy. There's so many pressures women face every day, and to be able to write a story like this, it was different, but it was also important. And I hope that Nancy's story inspires women to live their truth, do what makes them happy, and to not cave into societal standards and pressures from family members and friends. And life is short. It moves quick. And Nancy is someone who took the bull by the horns and decided that what was best for her was more important and not her family. And Nancy is in a cultural family where the expectation is, well, you got to be married by a certain age and you got to have children and all that. And she went against the grain. And that's a beautiful thing. And, there's so many other situations where people go against the grain and go against their families and do what they feel is right for them within their minds, hearts, and souls. And that's important. And we need to do that way more in today's world. Men aren't constantly asked, oh, why aren't you married? Or why don't you have kids? That's something that happens with women a lot. And it's not just women judging other women, but it's also men going, well, what do you mean you're not married? Like that kind of thing, right? And that's something that, is not really healthy in the world that we live in now. People have so many opportunities to do things that fulfill them. So that's why I appreciated writing A Woman's Worth 6. And I look at the landscape of this world now, and, I've done, the dating, websites and apps. And there are a lot of women that would love, the relationship or love to get married and things of that nature, but they don't want to have kids. Some of them are good with not having children, and some of them are good with, being the great auntie and loving on their nieces and nephews and giving them right back to their brother or sister and saying, well, thanks, the cool auntie is gone. And that's okay. That is perfectly okay. I always say, people who need to do it makes them happy. And that's what was the goal of that book. Character number 4, Patrick from A Man's Plight, Part 6. Now, Patrick is a young man that relates to me and experiences I've been through in my life, and I needed to write this story to empower men to get therapy and help when they need it. Mental health is important in life, and we can't grow and be our greatest version of ourselves without feeling good about ourselves. This book was joyful to write because I incorporated what I learned in therapy into this story. And this is why Patrick was one of my favorite characters to write in the past year. Writing this story rejuvenated my journey in my life, and I'm so proud to have written a story with Patrick and his healing, because I'm still going through a healing process, and I'm still looking at the world going, well, like some of this stuff I don't like, and some of this stuff I'm just not with. And I always say to God, I did not sign up for this. So anyway, Patrick was an important character that I needed to write about. And if you guys haven't listened to, previous podcasts, I have discussed a lot about my mental health and how it's improved significantly through leaving New York and moving to the West Coast and being in nice weather. Believe it or not, nice weather affects your mood in a lot of ways. If you are a person that likes to exercise and be outdoors and, soak up the nice breeze outside, I'm that person. I've been the kid that was outdoors a lot as a child. So the weather helps immensely with me living in Arizona now. And I actually did online therapy, a few months before I left New York and moved here. So it was just like, spent the summer, did the therapy, and by the end of the year of 2020, I was like, all right, I'm moving to the West Coast. So I am thankful that I was able to write that story. The last character, LJ from Alphabet City 1. This year, as I'm recording this, is the Alphabet City series, 12-book series. That first book, I needed to pack a punch. And Alphabet City is about life in a bad neighborhood, and it has its share of ups and downs. And LJ was someone that I needed to write about, because life as a young man who has been through the trenches and dealt with a lot of loss, sadness, sorrow, and questioning where his journey is going. LJ has a little bit of me in him. I've dealt with some sadness and sorrow from a very early age when I was a young child, but I'm not going to delve into my whole family stuff. But anyway, and with LJ, it's what a lot of young kids go through, living in a bad part of town, and kids are fighting to live and hoping they make it home every day. And LJ is someone that I loved writing to start this Alphabet City series. And LJ is someone I hope young kids are inspired by. No matter what happens, the obstacles faced, you get through it. And there's a resilience aspect to LJ's story, through the pain, the sorrow, getting out of his circumstances because someone believed in him. This is a character I love to write because I want to give readers and the world hope. Through trials and tribulations, pain and sorrow, dark tunnels, comes light at the end of that tunnel. A journey that will be nothing short of amazing. That is why LJ is one of my favorite characters I have written in my writing journey in the past year or so. So these are my next 5 favorite characters that I've written so far. And I'm very thankful for this journey. I'm thankful for all of, the people who read my blogs, to everyone who listens to this podcast. It means so much. So what I will say is please don't hesitate to look into the books I've written, the characters that I've written about, because, these books are very important to me. And you guys know by now, the goal is 60 books, and then I reevaluate and figure out what's next. But I pretty much have an idea of what's next. So that is my podcast for today. I thank you guys for listening. Please feel free to subscribe to all the major platforms that I'm on, but don't forget that my podcast is on the AquarianMindPodcast.com. So feel free to listen to my podcast there. Special media players that I create, get a little bit more of a breakdown. I'll be working on transcribing stuff, but it's a lot, and I'm doing a whole lot of other projects, and I'm going to be getting back to audiobooks pretty soon. So for all of you lovely audio people, I do have books in audio. I Woke Up a Black Man, Cold Blue Parts 1, 2, and 3, and The Struggles and Growth of a Man Part 1. So enjoy your weekend. Continue to motivate and inspire yourselves. Be good, everyone, and go accomplish your goals.